Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my evil podcast. Returning here is my chrome-domed confidant, Altaf. Together we will isolate what makes the sequel to Austin Powers one of the most memorable comedy sequels in the world. In Phase 1, or is it Phase 2? I don't know phases. Throw me a frickin' bone here. Austin Powers thwarted my plan using his charms to bring the groovy freedom of the 60s into the 90s. But now I've made him go back to the 60s without his mojo. And the best part is, I have mini-me. This is Austin Powers, the spy who shagged me.
What was it? Chrome Dome Confidant?
Yeah.
That was really good.
You like that one?
Yeah, I mean, it fucking killed me, yeah. Wow, because it was Alopecia Associate last time, which you really shocked me with.
But I was like, I can't see alopecia again. I got to come up with something else.
I'm glad you did. Good for you, man. If we do Gold Member, you got to do that synopsis as well.
Oh, God, I know.
Hey, man, we haven't done a podcast recording in a minute.
It's probably been 2 weeks since our last shoot, yeah.
3 weeks, I think, right?
Probably, probably almost 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's 2 weeks since an actual episode came out, like a proper episode. Last week we unlocked our Spider-Man commentary just because we wanted to put something out on Mondays. But I'm glad to be back here with you. If you're part of our Patreon, we're not going to get into it, but I think people know what's been going on.
Yeah.
But we appreciate you hanging on and doing this episode. And I'm talking to you directly, not just our audience, but I appreciate you, man. But honestly, so it was supposed to be Love Month. That was canceled. We were going to do some romance movies. And the question was of okay, what to replace it with. And I said, let's do Spy Who Shagged Me. People enjoyed our Austin Powers International Man of Mystery episode. And I was like, there's no way this is not going to be fun. Let me introduce the show. Welcome to Movies That Changed Us. I'm Altaf.
And I'm Chris.
And if you're listening to this on Spotify or wherever you listen to our podcast, know that you can also watch us at YouTube at Movies That Changed Us.
And we also do have a Patreon, guys. If you guys want to subscribe and support the show, if you like it, we do weekly commentary tracks and you can get early access to future episodes and bonus episodes.
We've, at this point, done the entire Jurassic Park series. So the original trilogy and then the World trilogy.
Yeah.
If you want us
trilogy.
At this point, we haven't recorded our Dominion commentary track. Chris and I haven't seen Dominion in general. But I will say, the Fallen Kingdom commentary track, while we were watching Fallen Kingdom, which we hadn't seen before, I felt like you and I were genuinely confounded by that movie.
Oh, yeah, that was a rough watch. That was probably the roughest watch we've ever had on a commentary.
I had a blast doing it just because I was like, but if you listen to that, Chris and I the entire time are just like, huh?
Oh, yeah, we were getting more and more baffled by the script and the writing choices as the movie progressed.
Yeah, and just I just need to figure out where Chris Pratt hid his charisma. It's just completely
he
gone.
Lost it. He dropped it. He left it on set at Infinity War. I don't know what happened, but
yeah, Jesus Christ. But yeah, so we have that on our Patreon. It's a lot of fun. All right, Chris. So how did Austin Powers' Spy Who Shagged Me change you?
I know this is a movie that's very near and dear to me. I watched it religiously since I was a child at my grandfather's house.
Oh, really?
I owned it on DVD.
Why specifically there?
I think I just had a lot of free time when I'd stay at my grandparents. I fucking love this movie. This is one of my favorite comedies. I've watched it probably at least once every year ever since I've seen it as a kid. Even watching it this most recent go around, I still laughed a lot. And so I think I'm just excited to get into it with you.
For me, I think, I'll be honest, I had a hard time coming up with an answer to this question because it's a type of movie you don't really talk about when it comes to how it changed you.
Yeah, this is not going to be a particularly deep episode, but this is going to be, we're still going to, talk about ourselves and get personal, but
I will say, I feel like because I didn't grow up on satire movies, I didn't grow up on Mel Brooks or the Zucker Brother movies, right? And you can see on our channel, we did a bunch of those type of movies because Chris and I both hadn't seen them, or just I hadn't seen them. And I hadn't grown up on Monty Python. And I think the thing I'm trying to say is that Austin Powers, and specifically Spy Who Shagged Me, was that kind of movie for me. And I'm excited to get into this. I wrote down a bunch of points about this topic, which is Austin Powers Spy Who Shagged Me is a party movie. And this was kind of my first party movie, which is, what I mean by that is, it's a movie where its entire intention is to just have a good fucking time.
Yeah.
Where like it's a collection of set pieces that are purely meant to entertain you. And it has a story and it has some themes that are very loose, but International Man of Mystery, I feel like, works more as a coherent movie. And Spy Who Shagged Me is like a beautiful collection of set pieces with like additional characters that they've added that have like honestly had more staying power through the series and people remember them now. But yeah, I think that's kind of like, if I were to actually pinpoint an answer for how this movie changed me, it'd be that. It was like my first party movie.
Well, yeah, and I would also say like what's cool is that this is a sequel that it's a sequel to a movie that has kind of not like a gimmicky plot, but it has a very specific, like, you know, man from the 60s goes into present days and he's this groovy swinger. Making a sequel to it, it could easily fall into the pit traps of doing the same exact jokes. And there's some repeat jokes in the first one or callbacks, but there's a lot of new gags, like a lot of new attempts at humor that are very different from the first one.
There's specifically one brand new thing that like elevates this series like crazy. We'll talk about it.
And also, yeah, when we get to it, it also elevates the characters too. Like it also makes sense. You know what I'm saying? It's not just something to be like, oh, this will be funny, let's put it in. But they actually do have things to add, continuing the story of the first one.
I was thinking about this while watching this movie. There's a lot of comedies you watch over and over again where it just kind of becomes like water after a while, where you're like, I know this is funny, but I've seen it so many times where like, I don't know, it's kind of washing over me. I don't think I'll ever have a time in my life where Austin Powers won't be funny.
Oh, I know. You know, I think like, I came across like a live stream on YouTube of a compilation of Austin Powers scenes, and that's all it was. Just random assortment of scenes throughout the whole trilogy in no particular order. And you put it on, and it's just funny.
Yeah.
Austin Powers will always have that special place in my heart.
Why do you think it has that staying power?
You know, I think there's such like a positive charm to all of them, because they're obviously really funny, but they're also very like weirdly empowering as a man watching it. Seeing it, like it's, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's this weird like energy that Austin Powers has where he's so happy to see people. He's so confident in himself. He's like, I'm a sexy bitch, and he takes pictures of himself and all that stuff. But he never acts like a jerk to people.
We talked a lot about this in International Man of Mystery, of just like, he is someone that you want to not only be like in some way, but also you want him to be your best friend, just because like he walks into every place, people are excited to see him.
Oh, and he gasses you up.
And he's excited to see you.
Yeah. He's always like, oh yeah, very nice. Like he'll always compliment your outfit or have something going on. He's so psyched all the time.
Yeah, and also this, but at the same time, I will say Austin Powers as a character is written in a way that's meant to make fun of the like masculinity traps of like even today, like of just the entire idea of this guy being so fucking horny. Everything he thinks about, every action he takes surrounds sex, and he's so into his own body in the way that like a lot of men are. Yeah, you know what I mean? And and I feel like Mike Meyers uses Austin Powers to kind of make fun of that. He's talked a lot about this in that like interview he did where he was watching his classic scenes, and I mentioned this in International Man of Mystery in our podcast episode for that, but he talked a lot about how he finds like sex and all of that kind of stuff very silly.
Yeah.
And that's why Austin Powers is written as this character that's like overly sexual in a very goofy way. Yeah, like sex in Austin Powers is not hot. It's just really funny.
Oh yeah. It's just wild. It's just him being like, go baby, very go. And like,
do I make you randy, baby?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and also Dr. Evil's such a perfect like antagonist because he's so uptight and like very high strung, but so insecure. Like he so wants respect. Yeah. Which is, I think that's what makes his relationship with Scott so compelling, because Scott's like such a classic Gen X slacker.
Oh my God.
And if we want to get into it with this movie, you know, that's what makes the addition of Mini-Me so compelling too.
Okay, so I was thinking about this. We've talked a lot about how people forget that Mini-Me is just not in International Man of Mystery. Yeah. He's not in the first one. He's introduced in the sequel, which is, to me, the same level of importance as, maybe you were the one who made this point, as the Imperial March not being in International Man of Mystery.
Or New Hope.
how Imperial March is not a New Hope but an Empire, I feel like there's the same effect to Mini-Me not being an international man of mystery, but in Spy Who Shagged Me. Because when he shows up and...
It feels like he was there the whole time.
And I'm like, how could you have this without him?
I know, dude.
There's... Wait, let me move my laptop.
Yeah. Move that laptop. Move that laptop. Move that laptop.
I wrote down some things about Mini-Me. He is a great addition to Dr. Evil's gang and immediately adds even more tension between Scott and Dr. Evil. So like you said, it's like, it's not just the fact that he's a funny addition. He's changing the dynamic of the characters.
Yeah.
And Verne Troyer's physical performance is astounding in this.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good.
It's a Mr. Bean level performance.
Because it's not the fact that he's just a little person and the work is done. It's the fact that he has added so much great comedic timing to it. And the thing I think about all the time is the way he gnaws at the kitty, or tries to.
Oh yeah, when he almost bites his ear and he's like, "No, Mini-Me, we don't gnaw on our kitty."
The way he just shakes his head when Dr. Evil's like, "Do you want a hot pocket?" And he's like...
And then he tries to do like do this. He's like a little bit.
I wrote down some like great examples of his physical performances. The matching Dr. Evil's air quotes.
Oh yeah. The way he times it the exact same way.
One of my favorite shots, I think I was telling you about this yesterday, is when they both put their cats down at the same time. It's just so like when you watch it, I was trying to put myself in the mindset of someone who had never seen this and didn't know what Mini-Me was. Because I don't even remember the last time I didn't know what Mini-Me was.
It's very, very true, yeah.
And I just imagine being in the theater and just seeing this happen, of seeing both of them put their cats down at the same time. Wouldn't you be so excited?
Oh, yeah, or when they both ride into that little bike with the little horn.
I would just be so thrilled as an audience member. I'm like, what a great addition.
Oh, yeah.
It would immediately be a hit. So, and then I also wrote, I think our favorite moment of Mini-Me of running to the kill button and giving the middle finger to Scott.
Oh, dude, I know. Well, because again, like we've been saying, is that it establishes the tension immediately. Like he's just fucking ready to kill Scott. Like, because it's the classic like little brother getting the more attention. You're getting more attention than the older brother.
Yeah, that Dr. Evil has so much trouble connecting with his son that he completely gives up and there's just a clone of him.
He just clones himself. He's like, fuck it. He's going to be loyal to me because he has the same goals.
He's like, yeah, so I don't even care about you, Scott, anymore.
But that's what makes it fun, though, is that, like, you know, obviously, like, they always say, like, yeah, Mini-Me is a clone who's exactly like him, but he, you know, except he's just 1/8 his size. Yeah. But Mini-Me is very much his own character. You know what I mean? He has his own experience, and obviously they really elaborate on that in Goldmember, which maybe we'll get to someday. But I always respected that. There's always been kind of a sympathetic quality of Mini-Me.
Oh yeah,
because he was just artificially created, and he has his own he can't speak. He has his own experience. Again, it is a Mr. Bean level performance.
It really is. There is something so great about the movie knowing what they have with the Mini-Me character. Yeah. Like, it's like the movie knows, oh, this is a grand slam.
Yeah.
Especially when they go to the Just the Two of Us set piece.
Yeah, that song.
It's like the Mike Meyers knew. He's like, this is so good. We're going to have a whole musical sequence, and it's going to fucking work. I will say, this movie has such big balls.
Oh yeah, dude.
And I know Goldmember has these like very like Goldmember's really big, right?
Yeah.
But it's funny. I feel like Spy Who Shagged Me is the same thing, but Spy Who Shagged Me is able to nail its big swings better than Goldmember is, in my opinion.
I think so too. I think another thing I appreciate, speaking of the Just the Two of Us scene, I was really paying attention to the set throughout of how much like random things have smoke seeping out. There's so much love put into the craftsmanship of the movie too, with all things considered, with how ridiculous the movie is. Even like in the very beginning, when Vanessa is revealed to be a fembot, that whole famous scene. Remember how like the face comes off and you see this robotic bride.
It looks so good.
It looks great. It totally looks great. And then, you know, it does the Dr. Evil pinky thing. And when it does the countdown to the explosion, remember the eyebrow slightly twitch before it blows up?
Yeah.
I was like, they had to design it that way where the eyebrows would move right on time. They didn't have to do that, but
you and I are always like huge champions of that kind of stuff. Like putting in the work to make something that is, at the end of the day, extremely goofy, but you put in artistic love into it.
Yeah. Even like
that's why, like, just watch our top secret reaction on our Nice Dude Movie Night channel.
Dude, we freak out the whole time.
That underwater bar fight is exactly that, you know?
I know, dude. But even when like Frau and Dr. Evil were about to have sex, you know that when the floor panels open and these big old curtains rise up.
I remember I was watching this movie with you just for fun one night, and when that sex scene was happening, I'm like, "Oh my god, look at the set they built for this, just for this one dumb sex scene." One for my homies
and one for my homies. He pours it out. Dr. Hell.
Okay, so I know we're jumping around a lot. I'd like to talk about the opening.
Okay.
Now,
the opening credits you're talking about?
Yeah. Okay, that whole sequence. First of all, okay, even before we get to that, just seeing Bob's big boy floating, I will say, like, it's just, I don't know if I mentioned this in the first Austin Powers podcast, but it's just, I grew up with Spy Who Shagged Me so much. Mm-hmm. And the fact that now I've been to Bob's Big Boy so much, Bob's Big Boy, if you don't know and you don't live in LA, it's a diner in LA. It's like this staple LA diner. Yeah. And if you know anything about David Lynch, he went there all the time. Yeah. I was about to say David Finch.
David Finch.
But, okay, we get to the Austin Powers in his pad in his hotel room.
Yeah, because he's still on his honeymoon where the first one left off.
And Elizabeth Hurley's back, looking gorgeous as ever.
I know.
Again, I was just started this movie. I'm like, oh yeah, the most beautiful woman alive. And I mean, just the insane move to turn her into a fembot.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've heard of this because I don't follow the old James Bond movies, which at some point before I die, I need to watch. Like,
I want to watch a lot of the old Sean Connery ones.
Yeah, but I do hear that they do kind of a similar thing where they find a way to cheaply kill off the last female so that way, they can have a new Bond girl.
Oh, I thought they just always had a new Bond girl. I didn't know they tried to explain it.
I thought so. I've heard of that. Again, I could be totally wrong, so any commenters, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I've heard.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, here's the thing. Like, Elizabeth Hurley, I like Heather Graham, but I'm trying to separate horny Altaf from, like, real Altaf, like, movie, not critic, movie podcaster.
Where you're trying to pick
Altaf.
your favorite Austin Powers girl?
Elizabeth Hurley, performance-wise, is better. Like, I think, and she's also, like, a more interesting character, and the chemistry between her and Mike Meyers is better. Heather Graham is still an amazing addition. It's a different dynamic. It still works. Now, but going back to the opening. So, we're now supposed to believe that she was a fembot the entire fucking time. Again, what an insane
She was the daughter of his partner. Remember, that was the whole thing. She was his partner's daughter in the first movie that they completely abandoned. The movie didn't give a fuck when they came out.
I think it's a great... Okay, the reason it works is that, again, it's a party movie. It's just being like, we don't give a fuck. This is a funny idea.
Well, they kind of make it clear, too, when Basil is just like, yes, we knew all along, sadly. And they don't even address... Like, they're just kind of putting the middle finger out, like, just move on, it's fine.
It's so beautiful. But anyways... And then Austin Powers is like sad for a second, and then he realizes he's single and starts like clapping with her dead hand, robot hand.
The theme song kicks in,
and it does the one joke in International Man of Mystery of like, you cover up his genitals with an object perfectly, and then it stretches that entire joke into a musical sequence.
Yeah.
But it's like, I just feel so much joy watching this.
When he's just strolling through the hotel lobby in the nude, just dancing and greeting everyone, and everyone's like, "Oh no!" They're all so shocked to see him.
My favorite is like what is it? The nut being cracked, and he's like,
"Oh yeah." It was like that walnut.
But yeah, I just feel so much joy. It's so much just pleasure watching this sequence. There's I don't know, there's nothing like it.
Do you prefer this opening sequence or the first movie's opening sequence?
The first opening sequence, because the first opening is just like you are seeing Austin Powers for the first time.
Yeah. Him in his element too in the 60s, and that's just a day in the life of him being chased by everyone and he's hiding.
Oh, how about you?
I mean, yeah, probably that one too, to be honest. I still love this one, and I love how hard they went, where there's like a synchronized swimming section. Like, all three movies have amazing opening credits.
I like the bravura sequence in general. Of just like, he went so hard in wanting to create a musical. Yeah. There's this like, it's just so much fun seeing a comedy announce itself in this way.
Yeah. Well, it's doing like the James Bond announcing itself thing, but it's cool to see comedies do that.
Yeah, exactly. I just keep thinking to myself, like, okay, International Man of Mystery was a success, but I've read into it. It was more like, it became more of a hit through like home DVD.
Makes sense, yeah.
Right? Now, by the time Spy Who Shagged Me is coming out, it's like very highly anticipated. People are super excited. It comes out. I'm just imagining being in the theaters for this. First of all, we've got this fuck you bomb just dropped on us that like Elizabeth Hurley was a fembot the entire time. Austin Powers, true to his character, couldn't be more happier. He's like, fuck yeah, I'm back on the market. And now we get an entire musical sequence that's that one joke we all really liked.
Yeah.
It's just fucking like, I don't know, man. It's hard to like do a comedy sequel, and this is like one of the best comedy sequels.
It embraced the spirit of the first movie. It got right back into it. Like, because he looks at the camera and just says, I can't believe Vanessa, my bride, my one true love, the woman who taught me the beauty of monogamy was a fembot all along. Like he walks you through like, this is like crazy revelation. And then he's like, hang on.
Again, it's a reminder to the audience, like, but we're still having a good time.
Exactly.
We're not. This is not going to be the entire movie. I'm gonna get Heather Graham. She's coming in.
Well, I think like if you want to, jump to Heather Graham's character, because like I do like her a lot, and I think like obviously, like you said, has a different dynamic with Austin for sure, because she's much more sexy and confident. She's not as like, put together and by the book like Elizabeth Hurley was. But I also think what's cool is they touch on it towards the end when they're in that lava trap chamber thing when they're about to be executed, how she is kind of a reflection of who Austin is. And it's like Austin having to reckon with himself in a way.
Yeah, I think what's really cool about her character is, let me get her name, Felicity Shagwell.
Oh, yeah. You didn't have to read it. You could have asked me, man. I know her name. Shagwell by name and Shag very well by reputation.
What's great about her character is that, like, okay, instead of doing the will they, won't they friction of her being the button-up one and Austin being this randy, horny 60s dude, it's like
she's like throwing herself at him.
What if we got someone that was kind of Austin's equal?
Yeah.
Both personality and like spy skill wise,
Yeah. And the biggest obstacle that Austin faces is his own confidence with his mojo being gone.
Like that's what's funny about it. He confronts someone that is basically like someone he's been trying to meet all along. Someone who's like right on top of it and right on top of him.
Yeah.
But now he doesn't have the self-confidence to carry it through.
Yeah, exactly. And it's become self-fulfilling, which, I mean, Basil doesn't help either. Remember, he's like, I suggest you don't get too close to Austin. It's not meant to be. I'm like, what a dick.
I know. Okay, so, yeah, no, and I think, like, Heather Graham is, like, having fun with the role. She knows what kind of movie she's in. I just think I prefer, like... I just think performance-wise, Elizabeth Hurley's much better.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
And I personally, the chemistry between her and Mike Meyers works better for me than it works with Heather Graham and Austin.
They had more to do, too. I think in the first one, they have like that scene in the hotel when... when they have that little conversation, when they're even just all the moments in the scene, they're like, if we're going to have a relationship, we can't just go shagging anyone. There's a lot of little...
The sincerity, like, I believe the sincerity in A National Man of Mystery.
Yeah.
That's why I've been kind of like banging on this drum of it's a party movie, because I do think Spy Who Shagged Me isn't really concerned with that stuff anymore.
Yeah. It's lighter with it for sure. I think it still has things, but it is just lighter this go around.
Yeah, losing his mojo is not only just a funny bit, but it is like, I did write down some notes of like what they're trying to say with the losing of mojo, but like the movie externalizes Austin's charm and then but also like challenges it.
It turns his charm into a pink goo that's in a little glass bottle of some sort.
And but aside from the fact that it's like he's not realizing that it's in him all along, there's also like things about Austin that the movie itself is kind of now challenging, of just like, this is a guy that like everyone laughs at his jokes, and in this movie so many times throughout like the set pieces, he'll say a joke and then kind of run out of steam of his own joke and then be like, okay, that didn't work. Like, like I kind of like that. I know it's played off as a funny running gag, but it also like kind of relates to the theme of the movie, is that he's kind of losing his mojo, so he doesn't have like the confidence to pull through with a joke anymore.
Yeah, I mean, like, I would argue he had those moments in the first one too, like when he makes the fire puns after the guy falls in the lava, how he's like, that's a good way to get a man fired. He does the same joke in the first movie with the head.
But this movie, they like double down on it.
Yeah. And I think that's what makes, again, Austin such a likable character, though, is because, he isn't just on top of everything. He's also kind of fumbles a little bit at times, even, or like, he wears out his own jokes. He's like, okay, well, yeah, that's it.
I would like to say, though, I want to make one last point on the party movie thing, then we'll move on from this.
Okay.
because I had a lot to say about this. I think I genuinely miss a movie like this. Not just like a really well-crafted comedy, right? Obviously, who doesn't?
Which, I mean, yeah, I generally miss those too.
Of course. Like, to come out in theaters to have the... But you guys have heard me talk about that a lot. But I miss the movie just having this, like, really this goal to just entertain you. To, like, we're not trying to do... We know what movie we're making. And we have big ideas, but at the end of the day, this is really goofy and we're just having a good time. Like, listen, I love the Judd Apatow era of movies of like, this is a comedy, but it also, we're trying to say something here. But like, I wrote in all caps in my notes, like, not everything has to be a dramedy.
Yeah.
Right? Not everything has to be like, but now let's get serious.
Or just a hybrid in general, too. There's a lot of hybrids out there, which I love hybrids, but there's just a lot, you know?
Yeah, like I saw this movie Hard Eyes recently in theaters. That was great. I loved it. But it was like another hybrid of romantic comedy and slasher. And I'm like, the thing was, the romantic comedy portion worked so well. And I'm like, but you guys just didn't have the balls to just make a regular romantic comedy and put it out in theaters? Like,
yeah.
But yeah, I just like the fact that this movie exists and it's a great example of just like, why can't we have more? And I bet there's so many actual like comedy writers out there that have scripts that probably don't get made.
That are like banger and really good too.
Yeah, I put down a list of party movies that are just going with that intention of like, oh, we're just trying to have a good time here, nothing else. Back to the Future 2. Like, okay, so one has, let me explain, like one has like, you know, a lot of stuff to say about just like how you see your parents, how your parents see you. Back to the Future 2 is like, let's go fucking crazy with the time travel.
It's purely an adventure movie.
Let's have a lot of fun here. Let's and even like Marty McFly's just going insane in that movie. Grown Ups.
Okay, sure.
Anchorman.
By the way, guys, Altaf is a grown-ups defender. Just know that.
Yeah, I think people who are fans know that I would be.
I know, but this might be new information for some people. You know, I just wanted to put that out there to remind people.
Sandman for life, man. Anchorman, Temple of Doom, Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, Robin Hood Men in Tights, Top Secret, Naked Gun, Airplane.
Okay. I would argue Bill and Ted's another good one too.
Fuck yeah, man.
I love Bill and Ted, you know.
But you know what? I would say Bogus Journey is more of a...
Yeah, I think they're both about equally party. They're just different types, yeah.
Yeah, they both get to that point where it's just like, wow, they had all these ideas, they just put it out there because it would be... I think at the core of what I'm trying to get at with these type of movies is that these are movies that are just like the funniest and goofiest idea wins. We don't have to worry too much about like how this like works with character at all, but it's just like a funny idea to have Will Ferrell's character only be able to answer a question if you ask it 3 times.
Dude, that part's so fucking funny. I forget about that scene every time I put it on. I'm always like, God, that's so stupid. He's like, damn, 3 times. Like he's annoyed that he has to answer it now.
And then the button to that joke being Mini-Me darting him and then flicking him off through a baby carriage. But the fact that he also dressed up as a baby. Like,
oh yeah. He disguised himself. He committed to the assassination attempt.
That's another reason why Mini-Me works so well is that they immediately find uses for him. He's not just a visual gimmick. Like, they know how to use him.
Oh, yeah, immediately.
Like, Dr. Evil's like, we'll put him in a baby carriage. Let's do it.
Well, I think in general, going to, like, Dr. Evil's plot line, I said this in the first podcast we did, is how Dr. Evil's storyline is always equally interesting as Austin's storyline.
I would argue to say that this is kind of a more interesting Dr. Evil movie than it is an Austin Powers movie.
Yeah, totally. No, I agree, because, like, even when he travels back in times, all the relationships are elaborated on with number 2 and Frau.
Oh,
like both,
God.
like, you know, even like they plant it. Even like I didn't notice until this go around. This is like me being film bro-y over this movie, but like in the beginning when number 2 pitches to Dr. Evil, like we got to get into the stock market, we could make trillions, you know, whatever, all that stuff, or yeah, you know, using going back in time and all that shit with Starbucks. That when he goes back in time and meets Rob Lowe, number 2, how he tries. Do you remember how he's like, you know, no, I won't tolerate your insolence. Oh, you gonna cry? You gonna cry? Like he takes out his fucking anger at Younger.
Yeah. Oh, totally. No, the reason why I love Dr. Evil and the stuff that they do with them in this movie is because, to your point, I feel like they really nail down the dynamics of Dr. Evil and his gang.
Yeah.
And
they elaborate on it in the sequel. Yeah. Like
that's the magic trick of these movies is that like, for people who are normies, they remember Dr. Evil, Austin Powers, and Fat Bastard and Mini-Me.
Right? We haven't even gotten to Fat Bastard yet. I forgot.
We'll talk about Fat Bastard, but but I feel like for people like us who are nerds about Austin Powers, we care as much about Frau Verbissina.
Oh, dude.
Who I think she takes away this movie at some point. She is so fucking good in this movie.
I know. They give her a lot more to do in this
Mindy
one.
Sterling, shout out.
So fucking funny.
Good.
Well, and also the fact that they pull like a full Terminator plot twist that like him going back in time and having sex with her is what creates Scott.
Oh, so the reveal of that of Scott showing up?
Yeah, like when she's like, I'm late. With like that whole awkward encounter at the snack bar when they're like, hey, try the bagels. They're breathtaking.
Oh, you and I have talked about this a lot. So the idea that in an evil layer, and they did this just for this one joke. So they have, okay, obviously Dr. Evil and Frau Verbissina have sex. It's really disturbing to see Dr. Evil open up his coat. Like it's
and
really...
is the see-through like white shirt with suspenders.
Shout out to Mike Meyers. This is his tour de force as Dr. Evil. In this movie, I feel like he doubles down on his performance as Dr. Evil and finds new wavelengths to it or something.
Yeah.
They have sex. And you and I have referenced this joke so much, is the fact that their awkward post like sex encounter the next morning is like taking place at like this office coffee station that the production team clearly built for that one joke of like, what if this
craft
was
services table?
What if these were just coworkers in a casual office talking and they're just kind of mixing coffee and like being awkward with each other, and it's like in an evil layer.
But they still put the Dr. Evil logo on like the coffee thermos.
They're so heavily branded.
But anyway, then as soon as that punchline happens, she's like, I'm late, and you see him start to gasp and react, and then all of a sudden Scott comes right in.
It's so brilliant.
With his blue hair, and he's all like, hey, what's up?
Seth Green is just so fucking good at being like...
the only straight man in this whole series.
But there are points where I'm also annoyed. Like, and that's what the movie does. Like when, obviously in this movie, a lot of the times, like Dr. Evil's plan is so similar to Star Wars and everything. And Scott is calling it out as like a ripoff or whatever.
Oh yeah, because he names the moon base that his Death Star.
Well, even in my mind, I was like, fucking shut up, Scott. Yeah. Like I was annoyed.
And he's like, the Alan Parsons Project. Operation Bananarama was a success.
I just remember this joke because it was in the same setting. It's just like when number 2 starts like kind of like doubting Dr. Evil. Dr. Evil immediately picks up that globe that he was demonstrating his plan on and starts bouncing it like a basketball.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, oh, what?
Well, that's what I'm saying, when he takes it out on Rob Lowe.
Yeah, and it's that wide shot, though, when he like hits Rob Lowe. Like, you can see, like, they did it on a wide shot where Rob Lowe takes that hit.
He smacks him in the face like 3 times and makes him cry. He's like, yeah, you're gonna cry. Yeah, go cry.
It is kind of nuts that like Rob Lowe is someone that traditionally would just be like a classic movie star, right? He obviously came from this like era of those like Emilio Estevez and a bunch of those like teens that were coming big at the same time.
Was he in Outsiders?
Yeah.
Okay. It's funny, you haven't seen Outsiders, but I'm like, you know the cast better than I do. I haven't seen it in a while.
Yeah. I know the lore behind Outsiders a lot.
We got to watch that movie sometime.
I know. I don't
movie.
know why I haven't seen it, but it's funny that like Rob Lowe, you would think he would become like another Tom Cruise or like anyone from that cast, like how they became just traditional movie stars. And Rob Lowe in general has found so much more success doing comedy.
Yeah.
Like he uses his looks in an interesting way. Like obviously this one, he plays that straight number 2 so well.
Oh yeah, I love his like the weird pronunciations he has with Austin Powers Mojo.
Chris, I was about to mention that. That's so fucking awesome. I say that to myself all the time. It's like the Mojo. That's like a take he had. You know what? He's like, what if I said it like this? But then obviously in Parks and Rec as Chris Traeger.
Yeah. Literally.
West Wing, he's more of like a normal person.
He's a drama actor in West Wing. Yeah.
But he's so good at playing these caricatures, really. It is just astounding to me, even in this movie. We talked a lot about this in International Man of Mystery, and we're sorry if we keep invoking that episode. But because Dr. Evil's so good, and because Mike Myers is so good as Dr. Evil in this movie, I was still like forgetting that they're the same person.
Oh, yeah, I know. I think like the only thing, this isn't me nitpicking in terms of actual criticism, but I did notice Dr. Evil's eye color changed infrequently.
Oh.
Sometimes he has blue eyes and sometimes he has brown eyes throughout the movie. Because I think Austin has straight brown eyes and Dr. Evil's supposed to have blue eyes.
I thought you were about to mention that obvious like double in the wide shot.
Oh no, that stuff's fine.
That's
I don't
kind
care
of like
about
charming.
that. Yeah, that's endearing. You know, I love that stuff. But yeah, once in a while I noticed that the eye color changed, and I was like, oh, that's Mike Meyers. That's right.
Oh wow, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, which his eyes are. If you watch Goldmember again, his eyes are really blue in that one. I don't know if they overcorrected or really wanted to make a point, but he has like really bright blue eyes in the third one.
So, do you want to go over some like just set pieces?
I mean, shoot, yeah.
Because like it's I think people know that we're not going to be talking about our deep emotions with this movie, but I at least want to go through sequences that you and I have just like shared in our friendship so much.
Can I ask you one mildly personal question?
Please do.
Little bit, what? So, have you ever felt like you lost your mojo at any point? What is mojo to you, and have you ever had a moment?
Have I lost it?
Or have you ever felt like you lost your mojo? Or do you ever felt like you ever had it? Or what is it to you?
Okay. No, that's an important question. I don't think I've ever. No. I'm not going to make a blanket statement. Like, I don't think I've ever had my mojo. There's like moments where I'm like out and I feel like I got it. You know those moments where you're like out and you're like, wow, I'm like on it tonight. Like, you know what I mean?
I'm a cool guy.
Not even just like, oh, I'm hitting on a bunch of girls and stuff like that, but I just feel confident and I like have that. And it's very external. It depends on like the type of clothes that I'm wearing that I'm comfortable in, if I'm comfortable in my body. And lost it. Yeah. I mean, I think I kind of feel that all the time. I just feel that sometimes like day to day, every now and then, when I just feel like I don't fucking feel myself at all.
Yeah.
And I always just, I think that's why the sequences in this movie where he's just like taking photos of himself frozen. And he's like, I'm a sexy bitch.
And he's like, he looks like shit. He's like frozen and his hair is all messed up. He has a blank stare and he's like, dude, you are like adorable. He's looking at himself like he's the hottest thing ever.
And I know it's played as comical, but it also like that Austin Powers is so like self-important, but also I kind of find that motivating in a really weird way. I'm just like, wow, like look at a guy who's very average to ugly looking.
Yeah. Well, and he sees himself when he goes back in time. He's like, I'm you 10 minutes from now. And they're both like, we're sexy bitches. like he's like, he gets to look at himself and he's so excited to see himself.
Like, I kind of want to feel that way about myself because I really don't sometimes. Like most of the 75% of the time, I'm not looking at myself in the mirror and being like, that's a sexy bitch.
Oh yeah, I look at myself in the mirror and I'm just like, oh man, I gotta get it together.
Oh Jesus,
I gotta trim this.
Fuck.
And I know immediately we notice all of our flaws.
Okay, so what about you?
Yeah, I mean,
was there a time where you felt like you lost your mojo?
Well, I mean, recently I've.
Okay, yeah, I was about to say, I was like, maybe weird timing for me to ask you this question, but anyways.
But no, I mean, like, I think I'm trying to rebuild my mojo. I'm trying to re-identify it, I think I'm trying to rebuild my mojo right now. I've recently taken a look at myself and been like, am I really like I'm getting older and who am I? I feel like I've lost touch with that a little bit. Like things like finding that joy and things that I really like to do. I feel like I've been kind of just droning through work and existing. Like there's a difference between living and being alive. You know what I'm saying?
That's the thing about Austin Powers is that like, man, that guy like knows exactly what he likes.
That guy lives.
And there is that part of you where you're like, I wish I could have like 10% the amount of fun that he has on a day-to-day. Like, I feel like he wakes up and he's having a blast immediately.
Well, they show it in a way when Dr. Evil takes that tiny little sip of his mojo and instantly Marvin Gaye starts playing.
About that's just a sip. Austin Powers just lives with that.
Oh, yeah, and he looks at Frau and immediately the soft glow happens around her. And she's like waving her scarf like she's so turned on by Dr. Evil.
That's the great touch. That is just one sip. They don't do any more with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, so you're trying to rebuild your mojo.
Yeah. That's kind of my answer.
Hey, man. I mean, I think that's great. You're like, what are some like first steps that you really want to take in rebuilding your mojo?
Well, what I've started doing is, I'm in between jobs right now. Not between, but I'm trying to transition to another job right now.
Yeah.
Not to get too specific, but I'm just trying to pick myself up a little bit, And what I'm starting off doing is just doing the real basic bare minimum, which I haven't been doing well, but I'm doing a lot better now, is getting good sleep, having somewhat of a routine. Like in the morning, I go on a walk every day now. And I go and get coffee. I have like my thing that I try to do. I get coffee and go on like a long walk every morning. So I get some level of exercise, get some sunshine in, wake myself up a little bit.
So much of what we have to do to kind of build our mojos back up and
really basic. Just drink water, go on walks.
And you got to do those things when you don't want to, you just got to know, okay, this is going to be good for me. I don't want to do this right now, but if I go on a walk later, I will feel good.
Yeah. Well, and also like I was telling you about this too. I want to try I was like, this might sound goofy to people who don't know me, at all, but I'm like, dude, I think I just want to start having more fun. I want to just do more stuff that I know will be fun.
No.
I want to go and get myself some new clothes that will make me look fun and feel like a fun guy.
I think people our age, especially living around this time, can totally understand that because I feel like our lives are surrounded by work.
It's very easy to get caught up in your bullshit. You know what I mean? And then realize like, oh yeah, wait, what am I? What am I existing for?
Okay, so let's go through some set pieces. The Jerry Springer show.
Oh yeah, in the opening.
Sorry, I caught you wiping off sweat for a second.
Some sweat down. I'm a little sweaty this episode.
It's hot, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, this Jerry Springer show, I think is just it's a great sequel double up to the Carrie Fisher group therapy sequence.
Oh yeah. Because again, that's what's so funny about it, is it's still like character driven and personal. Like welcome to today's episode on My Father is Evil and Wants to Take Over the World.
They have a Ku Klux Klan member, a fucking Nazi. And then Dr. Evil shows up, and Dr. Evil's introduction is everyone booing him, and he's like, What?
He's like, you're quasi-evil. You're semi-evil. You're the margarine of evil. You're the Diet Coke of evil. Just 1 calorie. Not evil enough.
That's the line that makes my dad laugh really hard.
Oh, really?
But by the way, I might have mentioned this in the first Austin Powers episode that we did, but like my dad and I know about these movies because of my dad. Austin Powers in general is like my daddy wasn't there. He didn't take me to the fair. He didn't buy me underwear. It's a song that my dad casually just sung for fun around the house.
Okay, that's awesome.
Then that's from Goldmember, I know.
Yeah.
But still. But also just the fact that they got Jerry Springer. They shot it in that set.
Oh, yeah. And they did the whole, chaotic, like, beep, beep, like all the cursing and they're fighting.
Yeah, like he really lunges after Jerry Springer.
Oh, yeah. Dr. Evil, like, curses. Like, you can see it's like, you were born in your mother's beep, beep. The world is mine, you beep, beep.
We talked about the opening musical sequence and we talked about just the two of us. It's a bit nutty.
Oh my god, dude. And it's such a good, like, the filmmaking is so, like, well structured with that opening shot too. How you see immediately him pouring coffee next to it and you're like, immediately something's off. You're like, what the why is that next to the shit?
It's Fat Bastard's stool that they're doing tests on. And not doing tests on, they just got it.
Analyzing it.
Analyzing it, right. Yeah. And he doesn't, without looking, he thinks it's coffee, Austin Powers, and just pours it. And every time he's about to take a sip, he gets interrupted or whatever. And it's like an excruciating few minutes to watch. Yeah. It feels like, I feel like that's one of those bits that just feels like it could be an SNL sketch on its own.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I
mean?
mean?
It'd probably be too gross for Lorne Michaels to approve of, but...
I mean, he's done pretty gross
but literally drinking a cup of shit is very different, I will say.
I don't know why, but every time I watch the movie, I forget that he does drink it.
Oh, he drinks it, yeah, and it gets on his lips. He gets like a shit mustache, and that's when he says, it's a bit nutty. Like, it's a fucked up scene.
It's really fucked up. Okay, Fat Bastard, you want to talk about him?
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean...
How often when you were in like middle school and high school did you hear "Get in My Belly"?
Oh, a lot.
That's what's crazy is that just like how Mini-Me, we forget that Mini-Me was in the first one. We forget that Fat Bastard and the whole "Get in My Belly" thing wasn't in the first one.
It's the fact that he actually wants to eat Mini-Me. Like, we don't really, like, it's the funny line and everything, but he literally just says like, I'll make you a deal, Dr. Evil. You keep your money and I'll get you a baby.
I see. I was kind of ready to watch it and be like, wow, this doesn't age well.
Yeah.
But I don't even think like Mike Meyers is doing like just a regular fat person. It's such a cartoonish character.
Are you saying the like the character of Fat Bastard doesn't age well kind of thing? Because of like fat shaming sort of thing? Yeah,
but I'm just like, I feel like this is so cartoonish that it doesn't even.
Oh yeah, he's so big and like you said, it's not really. I don't think it's meant to come across that way because Fat Bastard's just a gross person. It's not just because he's fat, but he's also like a gross, overly confident.
He is like being fat is like not even in the top 10 list of things of what makes him horrible.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not even the top 50, not top 100. There's so many things about him where when I think I told you this, I'm like, he is so gross.
It's really the scene when he's in bed with Felicity. How you see all the the little food and he's like glistening everywhere.
Yeah, Heather Graham's like naked in the blankets.
He's like, well, surprise, surprise.
That's the thing about it. He still has that kind of like Austin Powers level of confidence in him where he's just
I'm
like,
dead sexy.
I'm a sexy bitch.
Yeah, I'm a sexy man, sexy with the chicken or the turkey leg or whatever.
It's just like, I remember, and he's like trying to be undercover at one point.
Oh yeah, when he wears like the kilt and starts playing the bagpipes that put everyone to sleep.
That bastard's great.
With that sequence with Felicity, it's what I was mentioning before with Felicity being like a mirror to Austin of like her sleeping with Fat Bastard to get the mission done and then him getting all butthurt about it.
Oh yeah.
It's literally like the inverse of the first movie when he has sex with a lot of vagina and Vanessa gets upset about it.
Yeah.
Because he's like, what? I was just doing my job. Yeah, she's a village bicycle. Everyone's had a ride,
He gets a taste of his own medicine.
Yeah, totally. But, it does weirdly highlight his character development because he's now all into monogamy and shit. And he's all insecure because he doesn't have his mojo anymore.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, like, they do some, like, interesting writing choices for sequel stuff,
I think my problem with it is that, like, those are, like, really small moments.
Yeah.
But I do think International Man of Mystery has a lot to say, not just about like
the juxtaposition between 90s culture and 80s or 60s culture.
Yeah, it's not even just like, oh, like it's a more believable romance, but it's that. It's like, I remember International Man of Mystery, I talked about how it's like kind of a fight against boomer mentality.
Yeah, very much. Especially like, there's a whole like a very kind of sincere sequence of Austin like watching all like so-and-so deceased, and then like going and like being laughed at in public and stuff too.
And I just think like Spy Who Shagged Me doesn't have that, and maybe I'm searching for too much in an Austin Powers movie.
But I get what you're saying though.
But I think rewatching it this time, I'm like, I think I because here's the thing: growing up, I always liked this movie more than the first one. Because I just thought, as a kid, you just fucking love Mini-Me and Fat Bastard. You're just my God, every scene this is the funniest movie I've ever seen. And I think as an adult, I appreciate International Man of Mystery more. But we have both of these movies, and I'm so grateful for both of them.
I feel like an idiot. What's the name of the actor who played the president who was in Shawshank Redemption?
Oh, Chris. It's Tim Robbins, and he's so fucking good in it.
Yeah, because I realized we haven't mentioned Tim Robbins either.
A flustered, angry president that is so dumb that is just like, you could blow up the moon. Would we miss it?
Oh, yeah, when he's like, what are the launch codes? And they're like, Mr. President, are you suggesting we blow up the moon? Would you miss it? Would you miss it?
Oh, my God.
He's amazing in it, yeah. Even just the sequence when he's like, revealing the laser. He's like, Mini-Me, stop humping the laser.
Yeah. And okay, so we're jumping around a lot here.
Yeah.
But I will say Mike Myers is such a good, we talked about this before, but Mike Myers does such a good job with tiny mannerisms of Dr. Evil feeling awkward. Yeah. Like he's like, Mini-Me, stop humping the laser. And he does this kind of look. He's just like, oh, like sorry,
you're embarrassing me in front of the president kind of thing. And then how he's like, don't go that way, girlfriend. And he's like, I forgot what he says. Like, I popped a mofo. I heard that somewhere. No.
No, that doesn't really work. I don't know. We've gone this entire episode without mentioning the Ivana Hump-a-Lot scene.
Oh my God, I forgot about that part too.
Oh man, I was gonna say this is my favorite scene, but with Austin Powers, this is my favorite scene. With Dr. Evil, it's not. But with Austin Powers, this is my favorite Austin Powers scene. I just leading up to it, can we just talk about his photography montage?
Oh yeah, with Rebecca Romaine.
Rebecca Romaine, which, by the way, I saw her and I was like, oh my God.
I know, dude.
Jesus Christ. We go to this entire, like, photo shoot of, like, Austin Powers showing up to take photos. And he's like, come on, baby. Yeah, give me some. And then my favorite is like, I'm not even rolling. This is crazy.
I'm not even shooting you.
And then he gets in there.
Yeah. Oh, and he's like, you're a lemma. You're a lemma. And he does this little gesture for that.
See, that's the thing. I think Mike Myers' like physicality is so good because I think there's two things happening. When he's doing the lemma thing and he's getting in there, Mike Myers plays Austin Powers as someone who doesn't realize that he looks so fucking goofy.
Oh, yeah, of course.
But he looks obviously such a silly person. But Austin Powers is not aware of that. He only sees himself as the sexiest man alive.
Oh, and it works, yeah, and it rubs off on people. Do you know how we keep warm in Russia? Oh, I can guess, baby. We play chess. I guess wrong.
Okay, so then there's that entire like. So I watched Spy Who Shagged Me recently with my dad a couple years ago. So I guess not that recently, but we just put it on. And that whole montage of him,
When they're teasing each other with the chess pieces.
I remember, like, I felt awkward watching it. I felt like a little kid because I was like, "This is weird, right? It's sex." But then I was like, "Oh wait, this is so
When he has,
silly."
like, the bishops or whatever, they're like, it makes a little noise like their nipples.
Okay, so I want you to say it. What's
Oh,
the
yeah.
thing that you and I,
Dude.
I want to give people some context before you say it. Chris and I quote this line reading that Chris is about to do. This is a line reading me and you do like probably once a week.
Oh, yeah. No more games. Dr. Evil sent me to kill you, but I find you so sexy.
And then Austin's like, yes. Like, it's like he's been expecting this. Obviously, it's about to happen.
He's done it many times.
I've been down this rodeo. We're obviously going to have sex.
I just love the idea that she's supposed to kill him. Like, she's a cold-blooded assassin, but she can't bring herself to it because she's so sexually attracted to this man, this Adonis.
I want to hump a lot.
And then she tears his shirt open and she's even more aroused. She's like, you are hairy like animal.
Yeah, hey, listen, man.
Like that turns her on more.
Before
we wrap up, is there anything else you wanted to say to top this off?
No, here's the thing. Here's what I'll say. This movie just gives me so much joy, and I'm so like, there's this level of like actual sincere happiness I have that someone like Mike Meyers was able to like make something like this.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when I see when you watch old Mel Brooks movies and you're like, they just let him do it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just so cool that we have Austin Powers in our lives. And I know I'm being like really like corny about it, but I genuinely believe it. I'm like, I feel like my life is a little bit more joyous because Austin Powers is in it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't remember if I ever shared this in the first episode, so I'll just share it now. You know this, I think, that my old friend and I once had like a movie night where we literally watched all three in a row. We worked at Cold Stone at the time, and we snuck a bunch of candy from there because they have all the toppings, and we just got like, gotta have it cups and just put a bunch of gummy bears and random shit, and then ordered pizza. And her and I literally just watched all three of them in a row. Like, that's like, Austin Powers is very special to me.
Yeah.
And it's bonded me with friends. It's bonded me with my siblings. You know what I mean? Like, it's a really, like, it's a joyous movie to watch with people and laugh together because it has such a positive spirit about it.
It really does. It's so not mean. That's a great way to put it. It has no like mean bone in its body.
Yeah.
I will say I've had friends in the past that like Austin Powers. And they've always like quoted the movie in like in ways that the way everyone does, of like get in my belly, or they quote like sharks with laser beams and stuff like that.
Attached to their freaking heads.
But I feel like you're the first person I've met in my life that just like laughs about Frau Verbissina with me.
Yeah,
like,
I can walk. That's one of those movies that I can quote continue like all the way through. Probably.
While we were setting up, you were singing the just the two of us, but the Dr. Evil version.
Oh yeah.
Where you did a great like "C'est la vie."
Yeah, from the moment I heard Frau say I had a clone. Oh, some quick shouties as well to funny moments that we haven't talked about. Shouty to the penis jokes when it cuts away to all the different people.
Oh yeah,
Dick,
Woody Harrelson's in that montage,
and Willie Nelson too, and all that.
Yeah.
Shouty to that. Shouty to the countdown, to Frau's countdown. Her randomly screaming, "Send in the clown!"
Shouty to Frau spraying Mini Me with water.
Oh my god, I know.
And he does the.
Oh yeah, and then also the chair spinning around too. And Dr. Evil's like, the power of Christ. He's like, I need an old priest and a young priest.
Oh, and then it's just like when the chair finally stops spinning around, he's like, okay.
He's like, sick as a dog now. Okay, gonna vomit. I just wanted to throw a couple jokes out there that I do love as well, in case anyone liked those jokes and didn't wanted to hear them mentioned.
Yeah, and obviously, as you guys can tell, if you guys are fans of the podcast, you know that we at the end we usually ask you guys how this movie changed you. To be completely frank, we've been going through a lot, and so we honestly forgot.
we couldn't get it out in time, and we were like, let's just shoot the fucking episode. We'll get this one out. We'll have another prompt out for the next episode. It should already be out by the time this episode comes out. Just stay in the loop. We're still going to be doing them. We're not stopping.
Stay subscribed to this page. We'll put out a prompt. Check our YouTube community posts.
Yeah. Thank you for pushing to do this episode, by the way. You know I've been having a hard time lately, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. I just knew like there's no way we can talk about this movie and not have fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you so much to our patrons for supporting us again and again. We really appreciate it. Last but not least.
Sorry, that got me really good.
Stay nice, dudes. God damn it.